Conflicts have always been a part of human life. It's almost impossible to avoid them, either in everyday life or at work. So, all we can do is learn to react to them properly so as not to completely lose our mental or physical health. No one is immune to conflicts. If you don't have any with those around you, then don't celebrate just yet. You likely are in a conflict, but an intrapersonal one. This is when different parts of you can't get along with one another and are constantly arguing about something important. We'll talk more about that another time, though. Today, we'll be talking about interpersonal conflicts, which, as you have probably realized, happen between specific people. According to statistics, we most often encounter conflicts at work in relationships with our colleagues and management. While it is in our power to resolve conflicts with colleagues on our own, easing the tension in our relationship with a manager is a difficult task that requires a special approach. What kind? A conflict is a clash between a number of inharmonious points of view. In other words, your picture of the world encounters your boss's, which might be completely the opposite, or just be in some way different. As you are perfectly aware, in light of your position and status, it is inexpedient and pointless to prove your case, because bosses are different. While one tries to understand and accept your point of view, another won't even listen, but will immediately blacklist you and make you enemy number one. What can be the reasons for conflicts with a manager, I hear you ask? Well, here's the thing. Relationships might not work out for a number of reasons. The first reason? Antipathy. It's common for both parties. They don't understand you and you don't understand them. You don't like them and they don't like you. That's all perfectly understandable, of course, if both of you have good reasons for this. Try to see the same situations from different sides, though, from your own and from your manager's side. Secondly, your boss has a feeling of insecurity themselves, which may be caused by friction with their own superiors, or a lack of knowledge or ability as regards certain issues. Then you showed up so smart and thought, let's tell them how it's done. If your boss is suffering from an inferiority complex, then your advice is like a knife in the heart to them. Whatever good intentions you might have been acting on, they're not going to hear you, but call you a jumped-up nobody and put you in your place. Another reason, the psychological component, is character traits, personality, and management style. There are certainly traits that annoy or infuriate you in other people. Am I right? Yes. Don't just say that you accept people the way they are and like everything in them. Don't deceive yourself. We all have traits that might annoy other people, whether we want to or not, just as other people have something that makes us blow up like a powder keg. Your manager is no exception. They might dislike something in you as a person. Of course, this is a question of their competence and ability to differentiate between working and personal relationships. But no one is immune. You, in turn, might not like their management style or be annoyed by certain of their traits. And this, not definitely, but might have an effect on your relationship with them. So what can we do to stop the conflict from flaring up if the mechanism has already been triggered? Firstly, you be the first to start putting out the fire. You'll be responsible anyway, even if you're the victim. Why? Because they're the boss and you're a subordinate, and not every boss will admit that they were in the wrong. If there is a conflict with a manager, your job is not to exacerbate the aggression, but to try to smooth off the sharp edges and not let the situation reach boiling point. The best way to behave is to be cool, calm, and balanced. Without emotions, not raising your voice, with calm intonation, but at the same time, clear and confident. Secondly, try to understand the motive for your manager's behavior. I pointed out the main reasons for this kind of behavior earlier, but if it doesn't match any of them, dig a little deeper, compartmentalize the data, or ask your manager straight out where you went wrong. Don't forget, though, that it might not be your fault at all. Thirdly, don't fall into the position of the victim. Shouting and threats from a manager might awaken fear and horror in their subordinates. and cause them to fight back or flee, which is a typical response to threats that we have inherited from our ancestors. During a conflict with your manager, ask yourself a logical question. What is your role in the current situation? How can you be clear that you were in the role of the victim? It's all very simple. Your voice is wavering. You're looking for excuses. Your tone is uncertain. You're panicking inside and your body is shaking. If you see these signs, even when you don't feel any guilt, then unfortunately, you have found yourself in the role of the victim. This position is definitely a losing one, and you need to do all you can to avoid it. Fourthly, if you have decided not to fall into the position of the victim, then firmly tell yourself, I don't feel guilty, and I'm not going to excuse myself. Instead, I'm going to act based on how I actually feel. You should definitely say this to yourself aloud, because how we speak and with what intonation influences our internal feelings and self-confidence. If you believe what you are saying, you will be able to calmly and confidently defend your position. This might disarm your boss and show your serious intentions. Finally, if the conflict cannot be resolved and your manager is immovable, don't despair and don't start panicking. Try to see the situation not as an irresolvable problem, but as a temporary task that can be solved once you have understood your attitude towards it. Of course, it's hard to work in conditions that aren't safe for you, but our psychological well-being depends on how we perceive particular situations. If your manager is reasonable and able to differentiate personal and professional relationships, then the conflict will resolve itself in a way that's painless for both parties. Things may go differently, though. Your manager might be so obsessed with the idea of taking out the competition that they try to turn your colleagues against you and make your life unbearable. In this case, there's nothing left for you to do but change your job. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's frustrating. But if the other party isn't prepared to reach an agreement, then it's not worth wasting your energy for nothing. Maybe you can find a job where you will be appreciated and find help unlocking your potential. The main thing is to not be afraid and to be ready for changes. They can often transform our lives for the better.